Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at Batman's rumored Arkham Legacy game in terms of villains. So in a past live stream, a content creator here named Slickmoth was on stream speaking with someone who claims to be an industry insider who has most likely been a lot accurate with a lot of the stuff that he's actually, put out there as information about old Batman projects or scrap Batman projects and possible future projects. They had a discussion, and something that the gentleman said was, in one of the games that had been canceled, because apparently there was a Damian Wayne Batman game that was in progress, which is something that was actually cited also by Kotaku and some other news outlets. He did cite that there were some assets that he, was able to kind of like find out that they were working on, and some of the assets made their way out into the general audience, the general public, if anything, but some of them did not. And the insiders and, the YouTuber were having this conversation saying, we don't know if we're going to see these characters, but it seems like they're most likely going to try to flip some of these assets and put them into the story, because I think they were assets that have probably already been developed or whatever. But from there, what we're going to do is we're going to take on, just with a little grain of salt, some of the villains that I think will be really interesting to see in a different light in Batman games. But first of all, let us look through what this cast list may look like. It may have Nocturna, who's a villain or anti-villain in the Batman universe, Harvey Bullock, who's a detective, Sarah Tompkins, who's like a doctor, Gorilla Grodd, Katana, Black Mask, who they actually said seems like the Black Mask we're going to be seeing is actually the daughter of Black Mask himself. So Sionis, I think that's his last name. I don't remember his first name. And Abattoir, Edward Nashton, who is actually an enigma figure of some kind. So the Riddler, Poison Ivy, and then Talon. Now, we all know that it's more likely that we're going to see a character like Talon actually be in this game, and even maybe Black Mask, because it seems like even the fans have confirmed that Black Mask seems to be a lot underused. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about Gorilla Grodd, Black Mask, and Talon being potential villains in this game. And the reason I'm harping on them is because, one, Gorilla Grodd is just a character that doesn't seem to have been used a lot in the Arkhamverse games. Now, he is a character in Injustice 2, but that is a fighting game, and yes, he did play a role there, but it's not like the Batman games that we actually see ourselves, playing or seeing a character like that playing. Now, you wonder what kind of character archetype can or has Warner Brothers Montreal had experience with, but you have to think about this. Before they designed and developed Arkham Origins, they received the care package from Rocksteady, which was pretty much a lot of the assets that Rocksteady had used in Arkham City. And if you think about it, the Solomon Grundy character seems to me more like a character archetype, like a framework in terms of behavior and all that stuff that they can use to design and develop a Gorilla Grodd character. And I think this character is going to play a very, very good role, because Gorilla Grodd is not just one of those villains that actually deals on pure strength. He's also an intellectual in terms of villainy. And I think what really works for Batman games is they put in the intellectual and the brute type of villains in the game. So Penguin is more like a brute. His character is not, as a villain, he's not really smart. He doesn't really have much to offer. Harvey Dent is more like a wannabe philosopher, but he's also a brute, a thug. Sionis is also thuggish. Doesn't really seem to be very, very intellectual, but is street smart. And then you look at the other characters that come on the other side, who are the flip side of those kinds of characters. You see Edward Nygma, who's the Riddler, who's a very intellectual and cerebral bad guy. And then you see somebody like, Poison Ivy, who's also a brilliant mind. And then, you can also then say, okay, who else is on that cerebral side? I think Gorilla Grodd actually fills that need. And I feel like he'll be a solid addition to the game, because we have not seen much of anything that looks like it. And, I think it'll be interesting to see a character like that show up in the game. Now, if a character like him doesn't show up in the game, I don't think it's going to take away from the fact that, looking forward to a Batman game 6, even almost 7 years later is not something of a feat in itself, but I think that's actually going to be cool. And then moving on to Black Mask. I did mention that, on the stream, they confirmed that the asset that they had tried to use for this Damian Wayne game was Black Mask's daughter. So Black Mask supposedly have been taken out by the Red Hood in Arkham Knight, because if you play the DLC, the Red Hood DLC, according to that storyline, the Red Hood goes after the Black Mask and actually takes him out. So his daughter or some heir or some person taking over seems to be fitting if they're actually setting this in that universe or in that timeline, which is crazy. And I guess this was probably, depending on the timeline that they're setting it, which is probably a timeline after Arkham Knight, I guess it will make a lot more sense to the ending of Arkham Knight and maybe providing more light to that ending that we saw, because there have been a lot of videos that explained it. And some of us who are, into this whole Batman thing have for the longest time been confused as to exactly what it means. But a buddy of mine who's very, very knowledgeable about Batman lore did mention to me that the ending of the Batman Arkham Knight game actually shows Batman himself. It's just a different Batman iteration, in the sense that he's just using the fear toxin to make himself a little bit more scary. Not I'll say a little bit, make himself much more scary, or make himself scarier than he already was, and much more intimidating to bad guys and villains and thugs. So I guess that makes sense, because Project Nightfall, or the Nightfall Protocol, was pretty much, I don't know if you've all played Arkham Knight, but if you're listening to this video, you probably have. The Project Nightfall, protocol was supposed to be something that kind of pretended that he was dead, but he's still Batman. So I think it makes a lot of sense that that timeline is actually there. And Sionis's daughter, who's Black Mask's daughter, or an heir to Black Mask, is going to be taking on his place. It would be nice to see something of, a Black Mask character actually used as a full-fledged villain, that we can actually say, okay, let's see how this villain operates. Let's see how they actually work. Because, yeah, Sionis might not be an intellectual, but he's actually street smart. So he's got the brains and the brawn. And so we'll see what direction his daughter takes. And for those of you who are comic, fans who know the lore, you probably have an idea how this all works out. And so I'll be really interested as to how this, comes to play. And then finally, in terms of villains, I think we need to look at Talon. Now, this Talon character, I am not knowledgeable about this character. The only place I've seen this Talon character is in the Batman and Robin cartoon, and that's about it. And I think this Talon character is going to be very interesting, because this game was first rumored to be a Court of Owls game. So my guess is the main villains in this Batman game is going to be the Court of Owls. That's who he's going to be taking on, and then paired up with side villains, which has been kind of the way the Arkham games have actually gone. There's usually a major threat or major villain, and then in some cases, the other villains are working side by side and hand in hand to make Batman's, ordeal much more difficult. But I think this Talon person, or these Talons in the Court of Owls, depending on how they depict them, and I'm just, interpolating this from, the comics, the graphic novels written by Snyder. I can't remember his first name. Scott Snyder or something like that. I'm just interpolating from that, the 52 comics that you have all these talents, invade Batman's house. He has to fight them off, which was also kind of depicted in the Batman and Robin, animated series as well. But I think it's really interesting to see how they're going to do it. Is this talent going to be one main guy, or are they going to do it in a sense that this Court of Owls is going to be like a tree, like you have in Assassin's Creed, where, you're looking for all these members of this so-called, society, and you're trying to figure out who they are and maybe trying to take them out. Maybe they're gonna go that route in order for us to be able to find out who are the members of this, so-called Court of Owls, and eventually start to bring them all to justice. So I think with these villains, just these three, I can see a potential for a game that has everything that, is unique to a Batman game, everything that it takes to make a Batman game, being placed there for gamers to enjoy. So that's pretty much, what I have for this discussion currently. I mean, we're keeping an eye out. Many people are waiting for December 15th. They can't wait for it. I think it's going to be the announcement, but it's also something where it might not be anything, but, there's nothing wrong in looking forward to it. The rumors and all the reveals and all the little hints that even the studio has been dropping seem to be leading towards this, because they revealed some stuff last year on Twitter. They revealed just a little GIF on their Twitter page as well just a few months ago. And so I'm thinking that, before the end of the year, they're probably going to use it as a Christmas surprise, maybe even put out the word for pre-orders, and pre-orders are probably going to go crazy through the roof, just in the announcement phase alone. So We're yet to see what's going on. Thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Don't forget to leave a subscribe. It'll help the channel a lot. Leave a like as well if you enjoyed the video, and let me hear what you think about all of this in the comment section. I'm XGamerX, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace out.